Okay guys, and we're back with another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest. I'm Seth from the Lonely Stoner podcast, and this is episode 96 of my side quest. Now, in this episode, we're going to be looking at, will William Zepeda v Shakur Stevenson, will that fight ever happen? Now, there's reports around it saying the deal is close to being made, and Matchroom and Eddie Hearn are keen to make this fight happen. Obviously, Shakur Stevenson being the WBC, a lightweight world champion, and Zepeda being the interim champion, this fight makes a lot of sense. Naturally, you're the interim champion. Once you win the interim championship, your next fight should be for the full championship, right? You shouldn't really be defending interim titles. He did defend it successfully against Tevin Farmer, but I think that was because the first fight was so close and the second fight was quite competitive too, obviously, and I've made videos about that. It was a really good fight. But overall, this fight with Shakur and Zepeda makes sense and should be the next fight for both of these guys. Of course, Shakur Stevenson's a guy with a ton of pedigree. He's won world titles this is his third weight class. So he was a world champion at featherweight, two-time world champion at super featherweight, and is now a world champion at lightweight. Again, like we all know, tremendous amateur pedigree. And has been making pretty much light work of most of the guys he's fought in the pros, and a perfect record, unbeaten, similar to Zepeda, to be fair. Zepeda's got more fights and more knockouts than Shakur, and is equally unbeaten too. Zepeda's got, I think, 27 knockouts to his 33 wins, so clearly at the weight class at 135, he's got some serious power. He didn't knock out Tevin Farmer, but Tevin Farmer's, I've talked about this before, but Tevin Farmer gives anyone a tough night at the office. Gives anyone a tough night at the office because he's a very tricky and very, very skilled boxer. So no shame in not being able to knock out Tevin Farmer, but Zepeda's clearly got power at that sort of weight class, right? But to be honest, seeing how competitive the two fights between Zepeda and Tevin Farmer were, I'm being honest, when I see a Zepeda v Shakur Stevenson fight, I'm thinking Shakur Stevenson will win this quite handedly, because if Tevin Farmer's giving you serious problems and is keeping you competitive over the course of 12 rounds, Shakur Stevenson's a much higher level boxer than Tevin Farmer in terms of boxing IQ, in terms of being an athlete at 135 as well, and in terms of the boxing IQ and the defense. Shakur Stevenson's miles ahead of Tevin Farmer, and in my opinion is quite a way ahead of Zepeda as well. Right, so this fight should happen next. In my opinion, it would be not relatively easy, but I think Shakur Stevenson would get out the other end of that still world champion and would have unified the WBC world and interim championships. I think Shakur's, in my opinion, would be the heavy favourite there. My money would be put on Shakur if that fight was to happen. But there's some potential sort of controversy around the fight where Shakur Stevenson saying, this will be the biggest fight of his career to date, which in my opinion it would be. I think William Zepeda is probably the biggest name that Shakur has fought up until now. So I understand Shakur wanting to get paid quite handsomely for this. It was rumoured that Shakur was getting paid less than he was to fight Padley. He was offered less to fight Zepeda, which makes zero sense in my mind. He should be getting a significant amount more to fight Zepeda. And like Shakur rightfully is saying, that this should be the biggest payday of his career to date. And it doesn't look like that's what the route the promoters want to go down. So we'll see if money's the thing stopping this championship fight from being made. In my opinion, it would be this fight for Shakur. Assuming he gets through Zepeda, he would then go on to fight Tank, which would then actually be the biggest payday of his career. And to be honest, it wouldn't be the biggest payday of Gervonta's career, but up there. Make no mistakes, that would be up there. Right, and the build-up would be cold as well. So, I'd be curious to know what you guys think of this fight. Do you think Zepeda v Stevenson will happen? If it was to happen, who do you think wins? And if this fight does happen, and say you think Shakur wins, does Shakur then go on to beat Tank Davis? I'd be curious to know what you guys think. But another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.